Mule deer are often considered the icon of the West. It's this animal that dominates Western habitats basically from the plains to the sagebrush steppe to the high alpine mountains, and they can exist across that entire gradient. And also, when you think about the state of Wyoming in particular, are a very important animal to Wyoming. Mule deer are an animal that live in a world that has been changing right under their feet. And while they are flexible to some degree and respond to their world, they're certainly not adjusting and changing the way in which the world around them is changing. And so through this work, what we've been trying to do is help unveil and uncover some of those answers as to why mule deer are struggling in their current world. Our goal is to tell each animal's story. I think at the surface level, as people think about deer or a mule deer, they're just this common animal that we see here and there out in the sagebrush or up in the high mountains. During my master's degree back in South Dakota, I worked with captive deer and then did various experiments, feeding trials, other things with them. Working with those deer during that period of time, I came to appreciate that much like people, every animal is unique. Once an animal has become an adult and established a migratory route, mule deer remain incredibly faithful to that route. We started the Wyoming Range Mule Deer Project back in 2013, and it's been kind of the cornerstone of some of our work to better understand the ecology of mule deer. 221. Through that work, because of its long-term nature, we've had the capacity to follow animals for a long period of time. And so back in spring of 2015, I was fortunate enough to be part of capturing and collaring F14 on the day that she was born. Little did I know that her story would become what it is to us today. Those were the conditions up on her summer range when we caught her up on her summer range with her surviving fawn in 2019. So it's been 7 years that we've been monitoring her as she's become reproductive, as she's been producing her own fawns.
So right now she only has 2 offspring that are still alive. They just turned 2 this year, bucks.
And while she's had to contend with various things within her world.
And I think she's lost 1 or 2 to black bears in the summertime as well.
It gives us this pretty amazing and intimate glimpse in the legacy that these animals leave, and especially when it comes to mule deer, for as faithful as these animals are to their world, to their home once their home is established, and in this instance of F14, tells us how that's transmitted from mother to offspring over time. So if you think about one individual animal like F14, and then if you take that and scale that up to consider a population, that animal at least needs to replace itself once. That Rebecca from last
so
2021.
she's processing the yearling fawn.
She succeeded in raising a female fawn that could have been her replacement, but it just so happens through one road crossing during that period of time for that female fawn that she had already invested all those resources in through that summer, had made it through that whole gauntlet of survival that she faces, ultimately led to her demise on that road.
It's a clear problem with a clear solution. We can make roads safer for wildlife and for people.
You know, this particular following of F14 dates way back to something that really coincides with we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, and we've been a big proponent of research and science from the onset. And you know, certainly mule deer were something that were easy to latch onto because they're struggling. You know, some areas, some states even have produced information that they've declined 40% over the last 2 decades.
Our ability to reverse a trend like that is contingent upon knowing what drives it.
On average, every year in Wyoming, there are about 7,500 big game collisions with vehicles. That number's doubled over the last 15 years, and if we don't do something about it, it will probably double again.
So as we consider a large and robust population, there's a fundamental building block that plays into making that possible, and that fundamental building block is ultimately food.
We have built our roads essentially in deer and pronghorn winter range or through their migration routes, and that means that, you know, if they have trouble crossing roads, they have trouble getting to the resources that they need. Imagine if there was a highway dividing your house between your kitchen and your bedroom.
We're basically making it harder and harder for them to access all of those resources to maintain that large, robust population.
You know, the one mitigating effort that can be done, that can be quantified to work immediately, are wildlife crossings.
So crossing structures are 80 to 90% effective at reducing wildlife vehicle collisions, and that is just far more effective than any other of the measures out there.
You know, north of Pinedale, Wyoming, there's a very well-known wildlife crossing, which was, you know, one of the first of its kind in Wyoming, in a beautiful setting. The landscape there is tremendous. When that was completed, the mortality rate of pronghorn in that area almost immediately ceased to happen on the highway there. And I mean, they work immediately.
There's many F-14s out there. They're all doing their best to make a living, to persist within that environment, and to ultimately at least replace themselves within their lifetime. Had that road not been there, or had those crossing structures been in place, we'd probably still be talking about F-14 and her potential replacement, understanding where she's beginning to occupy space on that summer range, and what that's going to look like for that next generation of animals. This year things were interestingly a little bit different for F-14. She was a bit behind in gestation, so we knew she was going to give birth to a fawn a bit later in the season.
Where's she at?
But certainly couldn't have anticipated, but lo and behold, F-14 ended up giving birth on the day we celebrate our country's independence. We were able to find it in tall, lush vegetation in the burn that she currently occupies, and she gave birth to a very large and robust female fawn.
Do ID?
F-14.
Really, for me, it was the recognition of growing up and just having just a love of being in the outdoors and being able to create those memories. And when you have your own children, you spend that time out there and create those memories. I think for me, it just was, you know, what can I do to give back? We
pride ourselves that these big game migrations and healthy herds are like this essential part of Wyoming's culture.
And that's also good for the economy. I mean, the economic impact of the folks that come to Wyoming for incredible wildlife resources, that's a significant dollar amount.
It's a problem we can all agree that is there. So we can all relate to this problem and know that we should do something about it.
It's the human component as well. I mean, there is a motorist safety issue there, and that's an important fact that I think all of us are mindful of. We all want to be able to travel the roads in a safe manner.
Basically, we take all these pieces and it all comes back full circle.
You know, we want to be able to make a difference, and we know these are difference-making efforts, but these are also efforts that require the assistance of a lot of varied stakeholders, state, federal partners, as well as private landowners, and then just general sportsmen. We have to do our part, and we're glad to be able to be a part of this, and the timeline of these things happening now, it's pretty special to see them come together and the stars align to bring these projects to fruition.
And so our goal in garnering the information that we're working to bring to the table is for us to be able to understand which of those levers we may be able to pull to make it so we get the most effective return on our investments. Hopefully through that, and hopefully through F-14's story as she continues to prevail and to give it another shot this year with a new female fawn, hopefully it helps spark some interest amongst us, or understand what these animals face and understand the ways in which we can pretty quickly, with some investment, make it better for them.